everybody, it's Chris Eads, and on the line is Wootini, with another Gay Gamer video podcast. I have a lot to talk about, so I'm going to try to go as quickly as I can. First up, I went to the movies, and I saw the new Steven Spielberg movie, Disclosure Day. It was very good. It wasn't, like, amazing, but it was very good. It was solid. It was very solid. Basically, there's this group of people who are trying to expose the government cover-up of aliens since Roswell, and there's this not really government agency, but they're very shady, and I don't think they're actually with the government, and they've been working to hide the existence of aliens since the Roswell crash. And so they're trying to expose it, they're trying to keep it covered up, and chaos ensues. It's a race against time kind of thing. It's very much like a conspiracy thriller kind of thing. It starts off with a bang, it's really strong, and then like in the middle it kind of lags just a bit, like the pace slows slightly, and there's like some dialogue that's a little heavy-handed, and it's like but then it writes itself and it gets a great ending. So maybe it didn't need to be 2.5 hours long, I don't know. It was never boring. And there's some great action set pieces. The train is fantastic, that was a good one. The effects are excellent, except for some of the CGI animals. In particular, the fox looks terrible. So bad. It looks like the fox in Ghost of Yote looks better than the fox in this movie. It's unfortunate. But the performances are all good. Emily Blunt is fabulous. She's fantastic as always. She does a great job with her character as she is kind of losing her mind and trying to understand what's going on with her and everything, and she's terrific. And Colin Firth actually made like a really good evil villain guy that you hated. Although again, like the other problem with the movie is that like there's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of characters and a lot of motivation, a lot of stuff going on, and some of them sort of don't get tied up at the end. That like, not that they're left dangling on purpose, it just feels like Colin Firth's villain, he sort of changes at the end, and but it's not clear why, and it just doesn't land, you know? So like there's certain aspects of the plot that just sort of didn't gel at the end the way that I think they meant to. But it was good. I saw it in IMAX because I don't have to pay extra for IMAX with my AMC A-list. You don't need to see it in IMAX if you don't want to pay extra. You could see it on a regular screen, or you could even just wait for it'll show up on Peacock in a few months because it's Universal. So your mileage may vary. But I enjoyed it. It was a good movie. It was very entertaining. As for games, last episode I talked about Sony's State of Play, but I was still only like a third of the way through the Summer Game Fest trailer bonanza. I don't know how you people watch this shit live. The thing was like 8 hours long. I need to be able to fast forward through the trailers that I don't care about. And then also in the case of that Game Fest, I need to be able to fast forward through Jeff Keighley and all the other hosts that are like, who cares? I don't need an introduction, just show me the trailer. There was not, it was so long and it had all these trailers, and there was just really like not that much in there that like really like grabbed me, you know? Like Resident Evil Veronica, it's a remake of Resident Evil Code Veronica, and I'm like, I enjoyed that on my Dreamcast. Do I really want to play it again? Probably not. I'm not into remakes. I want to play something new, you know? Then the other one that I thought was interesting, the only other thing that jumped out was Wolf Among Us 2. There's going to be a sequel. I enjoyed Wolf Among Us. Telltale wants to make a sequel. That's great. I probably wouldn't buy the remake of the first one because, as I said, I've already played it. But I would be interested in a sequel. That could be good. But yeah, the Game Fest was not super thrilling for me. Everyone else, I'm sure you found lots to enjoy. For me personally, I was slightly let down. And then there was the Xbox showcase, which, to my surprise, actually included some Xbox exclusives for a change. Because as soon as I bought my Xbox, they were like, yeah, no, the Bethesda games will come out on the PlayStation and it's fine. Everything will come out on PlayStation. We don't need exclusives anymore. And it's finally somebody there was like, maybe we need exclusives to help sell our hardware? You think? I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking. But, like, they buy Bethesda and say, look, we have this amazing game studio. It's only going to make games for Xbox. And that was, like, a huge selling point. And I bought my Xbox thinking, well, I'll play Starfield and all the other Bethesda games on my Xbox. But then they're like, nah, you know what? We're going to put them on PlayStation. Who cares? And I'm like, great, why did I buy an Xbox? But there were only a couple of Xbox exclusives. Everything else is coming to PlayStation and whatnot. The only one that looked even remotely interesting was the Clockwork Revolution, which it's giving me BioShock vibes. I like the art style, and the time travel element is intriguing, so that could be a fun gameplay element. Also, I haven't played a first-person shooter in a while, I don't think, so that would be a nice change of pace. I've been playing a lot of adventure RPGs and action-adventure games and stuff, so a first-person shooter could be a nice change of pace. But there were a lot of shooters to choose from. It was funny because halfway through the Xbox showcase, I was like, this is exactly what I expect from an Xbox showcase. It's all like grim, violent, gory shooters, and I'm just like, like Doom and like Gears of War and whatever, and I'm just like, this is why I'm not into Xbox, because their games tend to be like this. And then as I'm thinking this, the very next game is this fucking crazy bird game that's cartoony, and I'm like, what the hell is this? And it's Bad Magpie, and I'm like, what is this? And you play it's like Untitled Goose Game, like cartoony and stuff, and you play as this little magpie who runs around and like creates chaos to try to make a fallen star like them or something. I don't really know. The plot wasn't clear from the trailer, but I was like, well, that is something different. That is not a grim, gory, violent shooter. Yay. There was also another game that looked called Vivarium, where you play as this little girl who lives in a vivarium, like under this glass dome, and the graphics are fabulous. It looks like a fucking cartoon. It looked amazing. But then I read somewhere that it's like it uses your clock to give you daily quests and things, and I'm like, oh, I do not need another game that I need to play daily. I need something that I can play and finish, I don't need any more like ongoing daily games that will never end. I have enough of those on my plate. They're taking up too much of my time. The other thing at the Xbox showcase was where they showed off a nice trailer for Crazy Taxi. Now, I enjoyed Crazy Taxi on my Dreamcast back in the day. I wasn't very good at it, but I enjoyed it. I'm not good at driving games in general, but also because it was an arcade game, like, it's timed. So, like, I could only ever do, like, a few fares, and then I would run out of time because I would fuck up, and I wouldn't get somebody there on time, and then my game was over. And then you have to start over, and then you're basically kind of doing the same things again, and you're trying to find someone else to pick up so that you can go to another place, because otherwise it's literally the same game over and over again. So I'm intrigued to find out how they're changing the gameplay. I know it's a world tour kind of thing, so you're going to go to other cities and everything. So that could be interesting. Perhaps maybe if they made it so that you're only timed while you have a client, and then you can explore freely at your own pace to like learn the world, so you can find shortcuts and you're not like under the gun all the time. That could be a nice way to do it. We'll have to wait and see when the game comes out. Of course, it also just came under fire because people found out that the developers used AI for placeholder art and such, and they rightfully came under fire for not hiring artists and just using AI slop as a placeholder. And they all say a bunch of people have been doing this lately, and they get in trouble and people blast them for it, and they're like, no, we'll replace it. We're replacing it with actual human created artwork for the final game. Except they always fuck up, and some will slip through, and then they have to apologize again and do a patch to fix it because they suck. And that also reminds me that I forgot to mention in the last episode when I talked about the Sony State of Play, I forgot to mention the new Tomb Raider game, Legacy of Atlantis, which I already wasn't that interested in because seeing the trailer, I'm like, oh, it's a remake of the very, very first Tomb Raider game. And I was like, oh, I wanted more of the reboot series because the reboot series was fantastic. Loved all 3 of those games. Amazing. So I was like disappointed that it was just going to be a remake of the first one. Now, they might put modern gameplay into it so that it might be better. We'll see. But they also just came under fire for using AI as placeholder art. And I'm just like, motherfuckers, you have a staff. Use them. What is this AI bullshit? It's destroying everything. It's destroying my job, personally. So, fuck AI. But yeah, that made me even less interested in the Tomb Raider game. So I'm like, but we'll see when it comes out, like, what happens. And then finally, because there's no more E3, it's all virtual now, so everybody just releases their showcases online, and you watch them on YouTube, and that's your E3 now. Last up was Nintendo, bringing up the rear, and I will give them credit for kicking things off with the new Rhythm Heaven game. That was cool, to give it that much of a presence, to open the show with Rhythm Heaven, of all things. And I'm like, oh, that could be fun. I haven't played Rhythm Heaven game in, like, forever. Like, I don't think I played anything other than the original DS game. But, like, I was like, that's awesome. And then I was like, oh, but I don't want to pay $50, $60 for a Rhythm Heaven game. That's crazy. But I looked it up. It's coming out in, like, July 2nd. I looked it up. It's only $40. And I'm like, thank you, Nintendo, for giving it an appropriate price point. A game like this should not be $60. 40 is more appropriate. And I would buy it for 40 because it's Nintendo, so it's never going to come down in price. At best, you might get it for 30, 35, but that, you know, it's not going any lower than that. But that was about it for me with the Nintendo Showcase, because most of what they showed was it was Switch 2 games. It switched. This was the first one where I felt like it was like 80% Switch 2 games and like 20% Switch. Like, there were a handful of games that are also going to come to the Switch. Most of it was like Switch 2, Switch 2, Switch 2. Unfortunately, there still was nothing that would make me buy a Switch 2. A lot of the games they're showing are remakes. They're either like the Xenosaga games that are coming out for Switch 2, which people have already played on the Switch, or in the case of the older ones, like the Wii. But like, they're also doing a lot of, you know, older games, like more recent but older games that have already come out on other systems are finally coming to the Switch. You know, now you can play it on Switch 2. You know, like Dragon's Dogma 2. It's like, people have already played that. You can get it for $5 on PlayStation, but you can also pay $60 to get it on your Switch 2. You know, and that's the problem for me, is like, there's a lot of games and I'm like, that's not gonna, you know, I need something new to sell me on a Switch 2, not a remake of an older game that you can get cheaper on the PlayStation or Xbox. That's just me. Then, of course, they finished their Direct with the briefest of teases of a new Ocarina of Time remake for the Switch 2. And that's also not going to sell me on a Switch 2. That's not going to sell me a system, because I've already played it twice before. Do I need to play it a third? No. I bought it on my Nintendo 64. I never finished it because I got stuck at the fucking water temple. But when they released the version for the 3DS, I played it again, got through the water temple, and actually finished the game. So, do I need to play it a third time? Probably not. Also, I don't know what the actual... It was a little cinematic tease. We don't know what the actual game is going to look like, but the tease made me concerned because Link looked creepy. It was too realistic, and I don't want it to be realistic. That's weird. Like, I know the Switch 2 can handle more realistic graphics, but this game, it just looked weird. I don't know. It's just me. Y'all enjoy, but this isn't... Clearly, I don't think this is for me. Then as for the games that I've been playing, I did finish the main story quest in this update for Infinity Nikki. Being Infinity Nikki, it got super weird at the end and dark. And then I've been trying to do like minigame side quest things to try to get enough points for the free outfit, but it's not going well. It's not really clear what I need to do, so it's a little difficult. And I've been doing these mini games, which you have to like place pieces on a game board, and I played it for like a dozen or so rounds before I realized that I could use the key to destroy the blocks so that were, blocking me, and I could clear more spaces to put down more pieces and get more points. That was not clear. Being Infinity Nikki, that was not clear in the instructions, so that was annoying and rude. And I also did this other side quest where you have to go all around and capture, like find all these, there are 14 little quizzes all hidden around this area, and you have to find 14 of them, and they basically, it's like moral questions where it's like, this is the situation, do you do A or B? And you pick, and then after you answer all 14 questions, you go back to the guy and he tells you what your spirit animal is, and mine was a sheep, a cute, lovable sheep who nurtures the land and is sweet and loving. So I guess, deep down I am a good person. I can be a little bitchy and have an attitude, but I am, in my core, probably a lovely little sheep. Fair. I also played in Disney Dreamlight Valley. I finished the museum showcases for the Forest of Valor and the Glade of Trust. Unfortunately, the reward for finishing the section for the Forest of Valor was this hideous crown that I will never ever wear. And then I finished the Glade of Trust, and that was this ugly umbrella that I'd never want to carry around because it's hideous. So thanks for those rewards. And then I did get back into Yote. I only have story quests left, so I did the story quest, and that led me to, you set your trap to try to trap the dragon, but the trap backfires and he traps you, and then you have to fight the dragon, and it was so hard, and I was like, oh my god, he's killing me, this is annoying, and I had to stop to go make dinner, and I said, I'll come back tomorrow and try again. I come back the next day, I turned it on, I said, I'll just try it a couple of times, and then I gotta go do something. And then I killed him on my first try, and I was like, oh, okay, that wasn't as hard this time. I don't know why. Maybe I just needed a rest. But then there was some, story scenes, and then all of a sudden it was chapter 3, and I'm like, oh, I guess chapter 1 is the introduction, and then chapter 2 is like the entire game, and then chapter 3, because I'm at the end of the game, so chapter 3 is short. But I guess that's I'm in chapter 3 now. So, but then that meant that I had to kill the spider. And the problem is that the spider, who's this drunk idiot who you use to trap the dragon, and then it backfires. Spoiler alert for an old game. Now you have to kill the dragon, except the spider. Except now the spider is like this incredibly powerful fighter, and you have to duel him, and he's insanely difficult, and he was kicking my ass, and I'm just like, I have to stop. I have other things to do. Maybe the next time I come back, it won't be quite so hard. Fingers crossed. And then finally, I also wanted to mention that I tried a new demo for a game called Woodo. I saw a trailer on YouTube and it said, try the demo now on Steam. And I was like, well, maybe is there a PlayStation demo? And there was. So I had seen a trailer for this a while ago. So I was intrigued. I was like, let me try the demo and see what it's like. Basically, the premise is there's like a diorama and everything is white. And then there's a sidebar with these colored objects on it, and you have to figure out, like, sometimes it's obvious, like it's a full character, and you just drag that over and put it on top of the full character, and then they will animate. And then sometimes it's like, what is this dot? And you're like, oh, it's their nose, or what is this thing? It looks like a dildo. And I'm like, oh, it's the leg of one of the geese, and you drag it over. And so, like, the first time you're like, what is that? And then the next time I'm like, oh, that's another leg, But, like, sometimes they're, like, little tiny things that it's hard to figure out where they go. And there were a couple of times where I had to use a hint because I was like, I do not know. There was, like, a little chicken. I was like, I found the chickens. Where is this chicken? There is no chicken. And so I pressed the clue button, and it was like, the camera, like, suddenly zooms around and zooms in, and behind the characters in the background there was a fence, and one of the planks of the fence was tilted out like this, and there was a little tiny chicken peeking out. And if you didn't go in just that angle, you would not see that. And I was like, oh, that's hard. So it's very simple premise of like just dragging things down to color up the diorama. But sometimes you don't know what that is, or you don't know where it goes, and then that can be a little challenging. So I was like, okay, it's not as easy as it looks. And this is just the introduction one. Maybe the later ones get even more difficult. I don't know. But I finished the diorama, and it was very cute, and like little things animate and stuff, and then you can go around and like click on things and they animate, and it's all very cute, and you can splash the water and things like that. But I finished the demo, and that was it. It was fine. As you do it, the things animate, and like you hear the voiceover telling you the story of the little fox who's staying in this little village, and how she encounters these evil geese that are torturing her and stuff like that, and whatever. So it's very cute, but it's just very light. And like, I don't see myself paying like $20 for this. I don't know if there's enough gameplay for $20. It seemed, like I said, it was very simple. I mean, there were a few challenging moments, but it's very simple. So I don't know. It's very cute, but it's very simple. It totally feels like something that I wouldn't pay $20 for, but like later on, like 3 or 4 months later, I would get it for like $5, you know? If it came for PlayStation Plus eventually, I would totally play it there. Very happily. That's it. I got through it. I hope this wasn't too long. I'm sorry. I promise next time it'll be shorter. I'll see you then. Bye!